Hey, welcome back guys, and we are at the fourth part of this series. So we have headed towards too long for this series, and now here we are in learning some basic coding. So in the previous video we have created something scene like this. If you don't know how to create this scene, it's fine, we don't need it in this video. But if you want to learn how to do this, you can just go onto my channel and click on the third part of my series, and I have completely explained how to make this kind of scene inside the Unity. So we are doing some coding, so we don't need this kind of scene or anything like this at all. So I'm just gonna save this and create a new scene by going under the file and hit on the new scene. So just like that, we are in the new scene. So I'm just going back to the inspector window. So if you create any game object, like if you right click in the hierarchy and create any game object, like I'm just creating cube and have to focus on that object. So here is a cube. So cube inside the inspector, cube have transform, cube mesh filter, mesh renderer, and box collider. So these are all our scripts. So these are some default scripts created by Unity, and you can have all other default scripts by clicking on the add component, and just you have this many series. Like inside here we have only one effects, in we are this many, miscellaneous we have this many. So we have several lot of scripts created by Unity defaulted. So while creating a scene or while creating any simple game or something, we use this kind of script reference inside our coding. So I'm just gonna let you know that we are gonna use this kind of scripts later on. And if you create something script, you can directly create from here. Like if you want to create a base script named basic script, if it doesn't exist inside the Unity, then it will pop up the option called new script, and you can just hit on create and add. Or you can just go inside the asset folder. I'm just creating a folder by right clicking and hit on the folder and name it script, and just like that the folder has been created. So inside script folder you can just create a right click, and inside create option we have second option called C# script. So you can just click on this option, and now you can name it anything. Like I'm just naming it a basic, and now you can just drag this script, and here is our cube object. We want to apply the script on this cube object, so you can just drag the script and drop on the cube object. So just like that, we have a script called basic inside this on the cube. But if we hit play now, but nothing is gonna happen because we haven't applied any component inside our basic script. So you can double click on this script to open inside your code editor. So I am currently using a code editor called Microsoft Visual Code. You can just check out any random YouTube video to how to set up this software. So I'm just gonna get rid of these methods by selecting them and hit backspace, because they are look much complicated. So before we starting scripting in C#, we need to know about some variables that are always being used inside the C#. So the first variable is float. So this is not a default first variable. I'm just introduce you this first time. So this is a variable which is a float. Float could be any number, like 1 or 2 or 3 or any 200. It could be anything, but the you need to understand what where you could use the float. So float is a number with have unit with it. So like if you want to define seconds, if you want to define distance, if you want to define anything which have unit, you have to use float. Or we have another method, another variable called integer, which is int to write. It could be, again it could be 1 2 3 4, but basic difference between integer and float is integer does not have any kind of unit. Like if you say I have 3 books, then that 3 has nothing unit, that is integer. But if you say I am gonna run for 3 seconds, then that 3 is a float which has a unit. So 3 seconds and 3 books, you can literally get a difference between float and integer. So you now you can get where you can use the float and integer inside your script. So the third variable is bool. So the bool variable could be only there are two values for this variable, which is true or it could be false. So you can define it inside your script. The bool would be true or false. So like if you go into the Unity and if you click on the random script, you can see there inside your inside your box collider, it says is triggered, and we have this checkbox called this checkbox which could be true or false. So this is a bool, which is boolean variable inside the C# script. So it could be true or false. True or false. So it could be true or false. If you don't define any function for becoming true or false, it does not do anything. But it's all these variables are really useful inside the coding or any kind of scripting you want to do. So again, fourth variable is vector. So you can draw it by vector. So vector has three kind of variable, two kind of variable, which is vector 2 or vector 3. So vector 2 is used in two-dimensional thing. If you want to develop a 2D game or 2D software, so you can use vector 2D. And if you want to develop anything 3D which has x, y and z axis, then you should use vector 3. So if you have learned the physics, then you should know what vector is. Vector has a direction, magnitude and the unit itself. Like if you are measuring a velocity of some particle, then it has a direction, it has a value and it has a unit. So this thing is used as a vector inside your scripting. So if you want to define a velocity of a object in your game, then you should use the vector. Or if you want to define the direction or anything like that which contain direction, magnitude and unit, you can use the vector 2 or vector 3. So I'm just gonna go with the vector 3. So vector 3 has three values, like in the coordinate geometry you can see as x, y and z. Like if you just can define all the values inside Unity, we have three axes, which is this is y axis, which is always pointing topwards. You can see that here it's y axis, and the second one which is red one is x axis, and the blue one is the z axis. So you can if you want to move any object on the x axis, you can just define value on this axis to be 1 and other to be 0 or 1 or whatever you value want, you can just define that here. So this is not gonna work, particle is not gonna move with only this line of code, because it's need several much more coding. So by summary, we have only 4 variables inside the C# scripting, which is usually there are only 4 variables in any kind of scripting. So these 4 variables are first variable is float, which has value and unit. Second variable is integer, which has only value but no unit, and third one is boolean, and fourth one is vector. Okay, so you have to write this like only like this, like you have to uppercase V, and you can check it out. You have to write it exactly like this. So vector has the vector 2 and vector 3. Boolean could be true or false. Integer is the only number which could be defined from -infinity to plus infinity. Float could be any number from -infinity to plus infinity, but this defined when you have a unit inside your game. So I'm just gonna just delete all these things up. So as I have said at the start of the video, we are gonna use this the reference of this script inside our script. So we have here a component called transform, which is always default component on the on any object. You can just does not remove it, because it defines the position, scale and rotation of the object. Like if if you just move the object, it the position on its specific axis just started to changing. So just like that, if you want to move this object on let's say like on the z-axis with use of script, with not like this, you want to just move it move for infinite time on the z-axis. So let's create a simple script for this to move this object on the z-axis. So as I have already said that we have a vector 3 when we have to specify any kind of direction. So we gonna need the reference of this script, so we are just going to start with this reference. So we gonna need before adding any variable or any reference, this could be public or the reference could be private. So you can write something like public float, and which could be time, and you have to complete the statement by adding the I don't know, epsilon or whatever you say that, and you can just Control S to save the script, and heading back to Unity. It will just take a small time to buffer depending upon your system. I am currently recording it, so it will take some more time, and just like that we have a variable called time inside our script. So you can just define it to be 10 or 100 or minus 10, whatever you want, or you can just go on the time and you can just swipe right or left to decrease or increase the value of this time. So I'm just gonna put it something like 10, which is does not do anything, which is just a I'm just gonna show what public and private do. So if you or you can just hit is equal to and hit default value called 5, and after defaulting any value of float, you have to write F for as a unit of that float inside inside the C# script. So when you hit save, this is I think this is probably not gonna change because we have already changed the value. But if you remove this script for now and again add this script on the cube, okay, on the cube, okay, we have this twice, we have default value called 5. But if you make this to be private float, and then when you hit save, then we will not getting any kind of reference for this time inside our script. Like this, we have no reference for this time, which has only one default value, and you cannot change inside your game engine or whatever software you are using for the C# coding. So you are not getting any kind of variable management inside your engine. So I'm just gonna put for starters, we are just gonna put everything to be public. We will talk about keeping things private and its advantages after some time when we become some kind of 30 to 40% pro inside the C# coding. So I'm just gonna make a public float. So for now, I'm just gonna delete everything and start with the simple scripting for moving a object. So for moving object, we have a component called transform. So we are just gonna need a reference for this. You can just check out this. Here is a transform spelling. You have to write it down same as it is. So you can just public transform and name it object like cube, and you can name it whatever you want. It is only up to you. You can name it you, or you can name it I am, or whatever you want. You can name it XYZ, whatever you want, you can name it. I'm just gonna name it cube and completing my sentence. So now when you hit this save and go back to Unity, so you will get a empty box of the transform in your script. So like here we have an option called none transform. So you can just click on this circle to select this cube or direction light or main camera, whatever you want to working with using of the script. So I'm just gonna work with the cube. So you can just select this cube by clicking on this, or you can just drag this cube and drop it down here. So just like that, we have cube assigned to our script. This cube's transform component has been assigned to our cube basic script. So for moving this object, we have to create a function. We have a lot of function inside C# coding. The first function is void start. So you can write it like this, and you have to create two curly brackets, and whatever you write inside this this will be your start function, start coding at the frame. So for started, we have two functions called void start and void update, which would be something like this, completing two bracket. And like this, we have at the start of script, we have two functions called void start and void update. So I'm just gonna explaining them right now. So whatever you script inside the start method, it will just happen only once when you hit this play button. It will happen only once at the first frame when you hit this button. Like if you want to make this value to be like if you create a float, which is public float, or just go with integer, public integer, and default its value public integer, and name it okay, simple, and make its default value to be 1, and you don't have to hit F for, because it's integer, not a float. So you can just save that. And if you want the value of the this integer change at the start of the frame, you can just create simple is equal to 5. I want to value of simple to be 5 at the start of the frame. Like, and just like that, you will have a float after buffering the script. Like we have a value of simple which is 1, and now when you hit play at very start, at the first frame of the object, it's just become the simple, and after that it will not do anything. The start void will be disabled after that frame, after first frame of the object. But oppositely, the update frame does that. It just update everything, whatever you want, everything at every single frame of an object. So you can just remove this, and if you make it like simple is will be increased by, which is will increased by, we written it as plus is equal to 5 at every frame. And if you save this, and I'm just coding this, and it's not useful at all to move this object for now, but I'm just gonna show you what does the update and start function does. So the update function is kept on increasing the value of the integer by 5 at every frame. Like we have inside the start, we have frame called 500 fps. So it is increasing the value by 500 into 5, which is 2500 every second, every second in the game. So you can just hit it stop, and if you come back to the scene view, you can see our value is 1 again. So you can now get the function of the, if you don't understand this code, whatever I write, it's absolutely fine. You can just get that void start is only happen at the start of the game, and update happen overall inside the game. So for now we don't need this start update, because we want to move object continuously, so we need the update function. So if you want to move that object, which we have named as a cube, we have named the transform as a cube. So transform has so many components, like it has position, you can see here, it has position, rotation, and scale, and it has many other components like local position, local rotation, and local scale, but we are not going to talk about them. But we are just going to change the position of it. So you can just get if you want to get the component from that transform script, you have to just hit a dot between that, and you can just get a position, which you have to write in the small letters all. So we have get the position of the cube, which is cube.transform, which its current position is 964.45 on x-axis, and whatever we have defined the position for this cube now. So if you want to change this position with time, or change this position, you can cube.position is equal to, or you can just hit it as a plus is equal to. Now the position is a vector quantity because it has it is variable on the three axes called x, y and z axis. So it has direction, so it is varied on the three axes. So we are just gonna add a new vector which will add a vector called public vector and move amount. I'm just gonna name it move amount. You can name whatever you want. So I'm just gonna add the move amount to it at every single frame. So if you have a cube position which is current position of the cube, and you will add the whatever vector value at every frame of this into this, which will, when you increase this, the cube will start moving. So it will happen only because of this script. So now when you hit it save and you go back to Unity, so you can see that okay, we have just done something wrong, which should be vector 3. I don't know what I was thinking. So I have actually said that vector 3 because we are working with the vector 3D scene. So we have used vector 3 for so now I'm just gonna focus the camera on this cube by pressing pressing Ctrl Shift and F. So you have so many options like a move amount. We have move amount on X, Y and Z. So if you want to move it on the X axis, which is we will see it from here, Control Shift F. If you want to move it on the X axis, I'm just gonna put it value to be really small of this cube. X axis, if you want to move this cube on X axis, you can put it increase the value of the X like something 1, or you have to keep this value 0 because you don't want to move it on the Y axis. So if you want to move it on the X axis by quantity 0.5, I'm just gonna put it 0.1 because you can it will, if you put a higher value, it will just go very fast and you can't even see what have been happened. So I'm just gonna put this value to be very small. So now when you hit play, the cube should start moving. So as you can see, I have hit play and cube has been start moving really good way. As you can see, I am not doing anything, but the position upon the X is changing with time. So you can just go back to Unity, and you can also change the rotation with the same way as you want. So as you can see, vector 3 could be a rotation also. So if you want to change the rotation, you can just like that, you can create the rotation which should be R small, and you can just save that. And I'm just gonna put everything as simple vector 3. Okay, we are not gonna talk about this now because this will not happen with this simple script. The rotation has some other components which is not position or which is not vector. So if you want to now I'm just gonna go back with position. So if you want to move this cube on the x-axis or y-axis or both all the axes, so you can just put it all the values like 0.1 or 0. Whatever value you want, it is up to you. If you increase these values, the speed will start on increasing. So as you can see, the cube has been start moving. So I'm just gonna cube has started moving and it's just starting moving. If you focus on that cube, as you can see, if I am able to focus, so if you increase the value by any number, like if you make it 10, so it will start moving on x-axis really fast way. So you can make it 0 to stop it moving on the x-axis. Now it is just moving on the y and z axis. So this was a simple script. It does not that much useful, but you can still use this script for your small achievement. But I think this is your first achievement as a coder in the C# script. So I think this wasn't much for a video, but we have talked everything basic about the C# scripting, and just like that we have created a simple code for moving an object inside the Unity. So now we are gonna be talking about the learning C# script in the next video, and for then Bye bye. And if you have any doubts about this coding or any kind of stuff related to game development or 3D modeling, you can follow me on Instagram. Link of that will be down below. You can follow me on Instagram and just direct message me, and you will get your solution to be solved. So till then, bye bye.